and welcome back to the Commerce Club podcast. I am joined today by Amy, who is the founder of Mango and Wild. Amy joined me recently to do a podcast episode all around SEO, and I've invited her back to do an episode around Google Ads because they are so interlinked that we want to talk about how you can optimize Google Ads in an e-commerce business. So for anyone that didn't listen to that episode, Amy, did you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your experience with Google Ads?
Yeah, definitely. I guess my background, like probably in the last episode said, very diverse background from childcare to equine physio to now marketer. And I guess it was just always a topic that in the marketing world was always really difficult, a bit like SEO. And it was very much something that I kind of wanted to learn, I guess. And then, I soon discovered, I guess, that Google Ads and SEO go hand in hand, that I kind of took it on myself to further develop my training in that. And then, most of my career with ads was very much in agency background, managing it for lots of different businesses, which again, then I guess made me realize that actually I could do this myself for other businesses, but hopefully in a better way of making it more accessible than big agency fees as such.
Amazing. So we're talking about Google Ads today. So tell us a bit more about Google Ads. What are they? How are they different from Facebook ads, and who should be using them?
Yeah, definitely. So Google Ads, there's lots of different, I guess, ways that Google Ads can show up, but they're very much about getting you on Google. So where SEO is about getting you there organically, Google Ads is about paying to be there. So today I probably want to just keep it on search ads because I think that's the most common one that people tend to use. And it's basically paying for keywords in terms of actually paying to then show up for those. So then hopefully when someone searches for a keyword, then your business is going to be at the top of Google versus them having to organically find you, which again gives you then the opportunity to obviously get in front of those customers and obviously hopefully make those sales and purchases. I guess it's different from like social ads because it's, like I say, it's more about keywords and relevancy, and it's probably got, I don't know, I'd say it's probably got a slightly higher intent because again, those people know what they're looking for and they're looking to purchase something versus Facebook. It is more about getting yourself in front of an audience. So, you're targeting people on their interests in terms of like, if they're interested in beauty products and stuff like that, rather than someone who's specifically looking for a product. So again, it is more, yes, you get sales through Facebook ads, but it probably is more of a combination versus Google has that higher intent because they, you're physically targeting products they're searching for with keywords and things.
Yeah. So the ads on Google. Talk me through it. Like, so when I go onto Google, obviously, sometimes at the top you have that like little bar that's like this post is sponsored, and it has like just a website link as if it was just on Google like a search result, but it says it's sponsored. And then sometimes you have it in like the sidebars. So I know that there's different ad placements on Google, and you mentioned that we're specifically going to talk more so about like search ads. Can you talk us about the other different types that there actually are, and like which ones would work better from like an e-commerce perspective?
Yeah, definitely. So the two that I would probably say work best for e-commerce is what they call either shopping or performance max campaigns are now like the newest thing out. And they're the two that allow you to kind of go on, I guess, all placements. So normally when you're shopping for products, you get the lovely image ones at the top, which tend to be the first thing you see when you go onto Google. That's a sponsored ad of people who are, selling their products. So that's where like a performance max or a shopping campaign will allow you to show up. Or again, if they're not at the top, sometimes the image products can kind of go down the side. And then search ads tend to be, in the search. So they tend to look more like an organic post, but then again, they have that tiny sponsored tag above them. So you know that it's an ad versus not an ad. But I don't think most people know, to be honest with you. Like, most clients I speak to, like the image ones don't tend to realize that those image ones at the top are actually ads and people paying to have their products there versus, being there because they think it's recommendations from Google as such.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, I mean, Google's always listening, guys. So they know what we want to see, and then they're going to place the right keywords ads in front of us. So that's interesting. People didn't realize that, but no, everything we're always being sold to, always
Yeah.
being sold to, especially on Google because it's like such a big platform with such a big wide audience and all over the world. So how we did an episode previously around SEO and like being ranking on Google for specific keywords that relate back to your business or your product. How do those keywords come into play with ads?
Yeah, so it's exactly the same. Often when you're doing it through like a performance max campaign or a shopping campaign, and this is where SEO comes hand in hand with ads and why I kind of always, I guess, went down the route of specializing in the two because I saw the benefit how they could help each other, is when you're creating, like I say, a performance max campaign or a shopping campaign, most of the time that's pulling your products into a feed, what they call a Google Merchant Center, that then they use that information to then allow your products to show up. So if you haven't optimized your website for the right keywords, your products aren't probably going to show up as well as they could within your ads versus if you did optimize them. So yeah, with like I say, performance max campaigns and stuff, it's more about pulling in your products, and then Google Ads uses your products descriptions and SEO titles and things to pull out the keywords from those to then see what's relevant, to then see what kind of keywords and stuff it should target on Google. The other way you have it is with a search ad campaign, which is very much you selecting the keywords you then want to show up for. So that is more about, you saying to Google, I want to rank for this keyword, be number one, and I want to pay so much a click for that keyword. So then that's where you don't have to be as relevant, but the more relevant you actually are to those keywords, the better you'll have, the better results you'll get. In the back end of Google, if anyone in here is running Google Ads and does have like a list of keywords, normally in your kind of search terms, you can add a column which is called like quality rankings, and you actually get ranked for your keywords in terms of, out of 10 in terms of how relevant your ad is to that keyword, and then also how relevant your landing page is, because it could be that your ad is above average in terms of relevancy. So, you've picked that keyword in your ad copy and stuff like that really well, but your website could be below average, meaning that it's not very relevant to that keyword. So again, it means that you're probably going to end up paying more to target that keyword over someone who has a higher relevancy. So again, that's where if you're seeing that, I would go and change things on your website in terms of making your website more optimized for those keywords to allow yourself to get a better result from your ads because you're more relevant towards it.
I've seen quite a lot of clients do really well with Google Ads. In fact, I would say most of my e-commerce business clients that do run Google Ads have way more success with their Google Ads over a Facebook ad. Like what you were saying at the beginning, people are actively searching for the things that are on your website, right? Like otherwise you wouldn't have popped up. So I think, yeah, like I can totally see like why people go down that route. So how if I wanted to set up new ads for my e-commerce business, like what would your kind of route to do that be? Because I know you're mentioning there around like making sure that your website's optimized to be able to kind of push you up and get the best results. Like where should I begin? Should I start on my website with my SEO and then go into ads, or like can I just go straight into ads? Like how do I go about this?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely think you can go straight into ads because that's what it's there for. Is it's there because you want quick results, and you want instant sales, I guess. But I always say to people whenever they run ads to try and stick to it for at least 3 months either way, because your first month is a massive learning period. It's the system learning about your business, learning what you want to show up for, plus the potential audience of who you can actually show up for and things like that. And it's about then refining your ads campaigns and things to again allow them to be more relevant. So that's where it might be that you eventually start looking at how relevant your ads or your website is to the keywords, to then go and make those changes in month 2 to then again give yourself better results, and in time keep refining that. So it is like, I would always say that like you can definitely start with Google Ads, because it just means that again, month 1 you might tend to pay more for those keywords and things, I guess, versus like, as you know, the more time you do it. And it's very much like the other thing I always say with ads in terms of like when it comes to setting them up is it is very much about relevancy in terms of, you know, you're targeting keywords. So, you know, it's making sure that when you're creating that ad copy, it's really relevant to those keywords. Your images are really relevant to those keywords. And then again, you know, where possible, your website is really relevant to those keywords. Alongside that, the other thing that often people miss is tracking. So again, you know, most like e-commerce businesses like tend to probably use Shopify, and you can integrate in terms of connecting the two together to allow your conversion tracking to be easier to set up. But sometimes people don't set that up. And if you're not telling Google what you want, how is it going to know what to drive towards? So often I see that accounts don't have conversion tracking set up. So they don't know if their actual ads are making them sales or not. And it's kind of always saying in this learning period, because Google, again, doesn't quite know what their end goal is. So, you know, it's making sure that you create that tracking or connect the two together to be able to then actually say to Google, my end goal is purchases, you know, because again, you can pull everything through. You can pull checkouts, you know, started purchase and stuff like that. But again, it's making sure that you're triggering it to say that you only want purchases to again try and maximize the intent of what your ads are showing up for, because obviously your goal is to have purchases, not people just adding to basket.
Yeah, of course. And like ultimately people want a return on their investment, right? And I think it's interesting that you said there that, you know, try and run it for a minimum of 3 months as like that trial period, because I think so many people get scared. They're like, oh, I've been running my ads for 2 weeks and they're not converting. And rather than like letting it run out and saying, right, okay, what do I need to change here to make this work? They just switch it off. So when it comes to that, like where at what points along the process would you say this isn't working, we need to change something, and how do you determine what to change, particularly as this is just eating someone's budget, particularly for like a smaller e-commerce business where they don't have all the budget in the world and maybe they're starting to run their ads on like a really small budget. It can feel really scary, like to not know what to change and know how which way to go with it, because you don't want to just throw money away with ads and not get the conversion. So obviously making sure that optimization is in place where Google and Shopify, if that's the platform of your choice, are talking to each other and you can actively track the conversions is super important. But like, what else would you suggest, like in that trial period? How do I know what bits to change?
Yeah, definitely. So again, it's always coming down to looking at that data in terms of, you know, if you've got your conversion tracking set up, hopefully you'll be able to see that you're getting sales and things through that. But also looking at kind of like the main, you know, you've got in Google Ads, you've got impressions, which is how many times people have seen your ads. You've then got clicks, which are then the number of people who have clicked your ads to actually go onto your website, which then gives you a click-through rate. And then alongside that, you know, you've got your conversions and then like your cost per conversion. So it really is first about knowing your numbers in terms of like what metrics you need to track, because sometimes people just want as many sales as possible. But it might be that eventually your end goal is to get, you know, a specific cost per conversion. So it might be that it costs you, I don't know, £10 to make a product. So as long as your cost per conversion is no more than £10, then, you know, your ads are performing as they need to be. So again, it's looking at that data. And if you're not seeing it perform as you should, like for example, if you're not seeing loads of clicks and a good click-through rate, then it's looking at changing that ad copy. It's obviously not very click worthy to then actually make people want to click through. So it's going into your ads and making those changes. If it's looking at your keywords, it could be potentially turning off keywords that are too high in terms of cost per click. It might be that, you know, to maximize your budget, you're better off targeting less keywords than more, to again give yourself the opportunity to actually get the results. So again, it might be that keywords that are like £3 or more a click, you have to turn off because you just can't afford that kind of budget to be able to use it. The other thing as well, like alongside the keywords you target, you also have what they call negative keywords. So you can also build up a list with Google to say, these are the keywords I don't want to target. So when you create like a Google ads account, obviously you're telling Google the keyword you want to show up for. But inside that, you've obviously got like similar search terms that, because Google will always kind of sway outside of those keywords. So again, but sometimes it might be like, especially if you're like location specific, sometimes Google might slightly go out the target area that you want to cover. So again, you can kind of mark those down to say, I don't want to show up for these, which again is going to in time help you reduce wasted ad spend, because that one click might have cost you £2, but hopefully it's not going to cost you that again because you've removed it and told Google it's not something relevant to your business. So there's things like that can be done. And another thing that I always say to clients as well, because one of the things we don't realize we can change is ad schedules in Google. So whenever we set up an ads account, our ads are actually running 24 hours a day. So if you imagine £20 over 24 hours and it's £1 a click or whatever, your budget's done in, so many hours or whatever it is. So again, it's, trying to maximize your budget by making changes like your ad schedule, going in and changing your ad schedule to, 9 till 5 or something, or only running in the evening. So again, you're increasing your chances of getting a return on investment with that budget. And then again, in time, when you have the money to increase your ad spend, be able to then increase those ad schedules and those time periods and things to allow yourself to then have more opportunity to show up.
It makes sense. Like ultimately people want to get as much out of their budget as possible, right? Again, when you're a smaller e-commerce business founder, investing in ads can be really scary. And I think one thing that most people don't really understand is like how much do they need to be putting in to be able to get a return. And I'm sure this varies business to business, but what would your recommendation be for somebody that has never run ads before? Maybe they're turning over between like 70 to 100 grand a year in their e-commerce business. Like what would your recommendation be to actually get a return on their investment there?
Yeah, definitely. So the goal, like, again, there's no hard and fast rule. Like, we've seen, like, I recently done some ads for a homeware brand and they started off at £20 a day, and they was getting a really good return on investment. And then again, for them, we prioritize working on SEO so they can maximize their budget in terms of allowing things to become more relevant to their, so then their ads would perform better, which then gave them the opportunity to increase their ad spend, increase their return on investment. But I guess a rule of thumb in terms of like what you should spend is it's like between 5 to 12% of revenue on ad budget. So roughly that's a guide that we would recommend. So, if you're wanting £10,000 revenue, it's looking at what's, I guess 5% is more of a like slow growth. It's not going to be as consistent, whereas 12% would probably be a higher, more fast-paced growth. So it's looking at what you need that revenue to be and then working out, what's 12% of that, I guess, to then hit that on your ad spend each month.
It's a good metric to have, like a percentage. I think some people get so fixated on a number of like £5 a day, $5 a day, whereas actually if you look at it based on like what is your revenue, take it down to that 5 to 12%, maybe somewhere in the middle if you can afford to budget. That really helps you understand like one, what you can afford, and two, like what's actually more likely going to get you a return. And how would I track that return? Like, how do I know that I'm getting a good return on investment? We always talk about ROI, which is return on investment, but like, what would be from a Google ad a good return on investment, would you say?
Yeah, again, it really is varied on client to client because it really does depend on like, and that's where you've got to ask yourself, I guess, before doing that ad budget on like, what is your cost per lead? Like, what's an appropriate cost per sale that you make? And how much does it cost you to like acquire a new customer, and then also what's their lifetime value, because that's another thing that we often kind of miss is, yes, the ads are there to obviously get people in, but those people hopefully would have a lifetime value as well as obviously an instant value, because if they've bought a product, hopefully they're going to repurchase that product again because they've liked it. So there isn't really like a hard and fast rule. I have some clients that have a 2 return on ad spend, and that's good for them. Other clients need it to be more a 5 return on ad spend. So it really does come down to your specifics on what you need to make, because again, obviously, only you're the only one who knows, I guess, how much it costs you to make that product. And again, one beauty brand over another cost per product is going to be totally different. So it is kind of like I say, looking at those metrics at, what is it costing you per sale on Google? And is that cost per sale right for your business to know that you're making the right return on ad spend that you need? And then if not, going back and, like I say, making those changes to try and improve that.
Yeah, again, it's not like a linear thing, is it? I've recently learned this from doing workshops on ads as well, about like the lifetime return on investment, and like how to actually factor in all of your things, all of your costs into your return, because ultimately some people, and this is no right or wrong, I guess, to this, but like some people look at their marketing budget as a completely separate spend, and that is obviously a completely separate spend, but actually you've still had all of these costs to produce the product, you've still had all of these costs to ship the product. Like, you kind of want to be factoring on all of that plus your ad spend, and almost treat a percentage of that product cost or product RRP, for example, as an ad spend, which is part of your cost price, so that you can then check to see like how much can you realistically afford to spend on that product per unit that you sell on ads, and then see if you're still going to be able to get a return on investment based on your actual profit margins. I think that's a really good way to do it. And I have worked with businesses in the past that we always factored in, whenever we were doing like cost calculations of our products, we would always, without doubt, factor in a 20% marketing spend in our cost to make sure that we had the budget to still make profit of whilst we were factoring in that 20%
Yeah,
marketing spend as well.
yeah, definitely. And it's another thing of like, also, like, often what people do is, and I know ads is like something that people want to test for, like I say, a 3 month period, but also looking at that in terms of your strategy of, is that the right time of year? So for example, I've recently had some clients just start ads now, and they're not getting the return on ad spend they want because we're in month one and we're in a massively big, like, competitive
Competitive.
time of year. So like, what we're not getting the right insights, I guess, at the moment to know how to best manage that campaign, because we're not getting an idea of what their real return on ad spend
Mm.
is. And also they're still in a learning phase with Google to know if they're at, what they're doing. Whereas I've got other clients that have started, ads from summer, and they're getting, well, probably triple the return on ad spend at the moment, because the systems know what they need, they know what their business does, they've refined it over the so many months of the year, that they're actually able to maximize their ad spend a bit more now. But also it's looking at that budget again and going, when do I need to increase and decrease it? Like, when are my customers most active? When's the most competitive times of the year for me? And then, looking at your ads budget as a whole, rather than just kind of like you say, doing I'm just going to chuck £5 a day on it, because it might be that at Christmas you need to spend more, £1,000 a month, versus, in January you might only need to spend £300 a month and still make the same return on investment. But it just again depends how competitive it is within your industry to what you might need to do.
I think, yeah, it completely depends on the product, and it's like in the retail world, naturally there's peaks and troughs throughout the year, right? Like, so you kind of want to think about like your product, when are people actually looking for it? Like, so for example, using my e-commerce business Tina as an example, we're most likely to be running ads in January because people are going to be on like a new year, new me hype in January. So more likely we're going to get return on our investment probably in that period of time, because people are more actively searching, I'd say, for that specific type of product. Whereas if we maybe run it now, it's maybe not as beneficial. So yeah, that makes perfect sense. And we've spoken a little bit about Google Shopping, but like, tell me a little bit more about Google Shopping, because I think that's also something that's very underutilized. I know most of my clients don't even know what it is when they come to me. So I would be interested to hear like your take on Google Shopping. Should every brand be on there? Like, how do you utilize that, and like how do the ads work with that as well?
Yeah, definitely. So it's one of those that, like I say, a search campaign that's more focused around keywords is probably one that you can you have more control over, I guess, because you can tell it what keywords you want to show up, what keywords you don't want to show up, and you can optimize it more. Whereas Google Shopping is very much, like I said from the start, it's pulling website information from your website. So you're kind of just making a collection of products, and then Google's pushing those products out. But again, it is good for small businesses and stuff because you don't necessarily have to do much to manage those ads then. It's just more about doing, that's where it becomes more about SEO in terms of optimizing your products in your website to be able to allow those products to hopefully better perform on your ads because you're allowing them to be more relevant to the keywords and things. But yeah, I definitely think it's something that businesses can, easily use as a quick win. And it's probably something that, you can easily have a small budget on to kind of run alongside doing something like SEO.
That makes sense. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Like with Google Ads, and we spoke a little bit about return on investment. Like, is there any other metrics within the Google Ads platform that you'd suggest people look at when they're running ads to make sure that they kind of can see that there's progress being made?
Yeah, definitely. Like I say, the other ones you kind of really want to look at is kind of like your clicks and click-through rates to kind of check that people are actually seeing your ads. So as a benchmark for search ads, I tend to say around 5%. I think industry standard is around 2%. But I think you should easily be able to achieve 5% plus on a search ad campaign. And then again, for like a performance max or a shopping campaign, I think the benchmark is around 1.5. And again, you want to try and around a 2 to 3% click through rate because, again, it shows that your ads are really performing as they should be in terms of the relevancy and stuff. So that's another metric I would definitely say is like worth looking at. And again, if you're not seeing, those good click through rates, then again, it's going into your ads and, tweaking the ad copy and things to, again, make it more relevant to the things you're targeting to hopefully allow it to improve and increase those click through rates.
Super interesting and very helpful, I'm sure, for anybody running Google Ads. I know that I've got a couple of clients that come to mind that they run Google Ads and they do quite often work for them, but I feel like there's so much more opportunity for them to be kind of optimized and have more opportunity there because already they do well on Google just generally from like a search perspective. Like running the ads can really help just boost that, can't it? So that was
Yeah.
very useful. So if I want to get into ads and I wanted to start running ads for my e-commerce business right now, like what would your best tip be? Like where would my starting point be?
Yeah, definitely. I would say the best tip would be to set up a performance max campaign over any other campaign, especially if you have a lower budget, because this type of campaign gives you the opportunity to go across lots of different Google networks, I guess. It's a combination of shopping, search, display, and so forth. And so it's going to widen your chances of hopefully showing up for your target audience and for the right keywords versus, having lots of different campaigns running individually. My go-to would, be setting up a performance max campaign, like I say, and it's just about creating, lots of different ads for all the different kind of products and things you have, and just making sure that they're really relevant to what you're trying to target in terms of those keywords.
Nice. And just one last question, actually, more out of curiosity than anything else, because I don't understand this part. That like in Facebook ads, for example, you can create like multiple versions of the ad under one budget. Is that a possibility to do in Google, or is it just like this is one version, you're paying for this?
Yeah, so with a search ad, it's based on ad groups. So each ad group basically targets a group of keywords. And again, that then helps you to become more relevant to it. So, if you've got lots of products, you want to have lots of ad groups within your campaign because then each ad group will basically be you have almost like a product per ad group because then again, it's relevant and you've got a list of keywords. You actually can add up to 20 keywords per ad group. But again, I would probably say start with 10 or something like that to again keep it really niche and really relevant. Um, and then for a performance max campaign, it's called assets for some reason. But again, it's the same thing that you would almost create an asset per product. So again, you would create lots of different asset groups, so then you've got lots of different product collections running at different times. And then what that allows you to then do is, you've got one budget across lots of different products, and then Google will basically, I guess, push more money to which one's performing or which one's driving the results. So then again, that's where you might turn others off because you want to just, keep the ones that are running. Or if you're not seeing that, all the products are getting results, that's where it could be that your budget isn't enough to run all of these products. And that's where it might be that you need to look at increasing it a little bit to then allow Google to have a little bit more budget to then run it across different products and things versus just having it, favoring one over the others. But yeah, you can do kind of everything in one campaign, which then gives you the opportunity to target lots of things, but kind of hand it over to Google on, what they feel is going to give you the results out of those products and things you're selling.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Oh, well, there's lots of information there. I feel like it's a bit of a minefield sometimes with ads. So it's like, okay, where do you get started? But that's a good overview there. So thank you so much for that. For anyone that's looking for ad support, do you want to just share kind of where we can find you and what you can support on?
Yeah, definitely. Main place, like I say, is Instagram. That's probably the best place to reach out, chat in the DMs and stuff like that if anyone ever gets stuck. Or obviously you can head to my website, which is mangoandwild.com. And yeah, always open, like I say, for chats. I do lots of kind of workshops and things around ads. And if not, I can, do kind of one-off support in terms of audits and things. If not, kind of the usual handing over the reins and hopefully helping people improve their ROIs themselves.
Amazing. Well, thanks for that. That was super helpful. And anyone that's looking to get started with their ads, Amy is your go-to person. Thanks for joining me, Amy.
See ya.
Thank you.